Okay, everybody, good evening. I'm going to call tonight's special commissioners meeting, Tuesday, March 12th, 2024 to order. First order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance, and I will do the honors. What I will ask is that everyone who is not speaking other than board members, please mute yourself so we don't have any feedback. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, moving on to item number 2, the roll call. Manager Elliott, will you please take the roll for the commissioners meeting? Allison, you're muted.
Sorry about that. I don't have my order, but I'll go. Commissioner Arman.
Here.
Commissioner Brockington.
Here.
Commissioner Cherico.
Here.
Commissioner Rappaport.
Here.
Commissioner Zieggenfeld.
Here.
Commissioner Norris.
Here.
And Commissioner Lewis. Missing everybody?
Here.
Right. I think everybody's here.
Very good. Thank you all for being here. I'm going to start with some opening remarks, and we'll turn it over to our architects. Good evening, everyone. My name is Matt Arman. I'm the president of the board. I just want to take a few minutes before we kick off this very important meeting just to put tonight's facilities presentation into a bit of context. I want to thank everyone for being here tonight. It's there's a lot going on in this facilities presentation, and I know we've had a lot of interest over the course of months and years, as a matter of fact. But this is a really critical time in this process. So I appreciate everyone making the time in their evening to come and join us. I want to talk a little bit about where we've been, the phase we're in right now, and some of our next steps, so you have context as the presentation goes on. I and others have often described this facilities process by quoting Bishop Desmond Tutu, who once wisely said that there's only one way to eat an elephant, that is one bite at a time. What he meant was that when you're faced with a seemingly daunting or even impossible task, it can be accomplished by gradually taking one little bit at a time. And that's what we've done here in this process, and that's what we'll continue to do as we move along this process of addressing our failed facilities. So where have we been? Some years ago, the board recognized that one of our primary challenges faced in the township was our aging buildings, all of which present structural, functional, and efficiency concerns. Over the years, Cheltenham has spent great effort looking into its individual facilities, but never made the necessary capital improvements and maintenance commitments to ensure those facilities would continue to serve the community. Because of past neglect, the urgency to address every one of our facilities became so increasingly dire, this board determined it had no choice but to act. We recognize an absolute responsibility to take a forward-thinking, holistic approach to determine the best way to provide services to our community in a fiscally, socially, and environmentally responsible manner. And we committed to ensure that our residents and staff have the facilities of which they can be proud and which serve their ever-changing needs. So based upon that commitment, 2 years ago, we engaged our architectural team with the task of performing a study on the condition of the township facilities and the program needs for now and into the future. The intent of the study was to come up with a vision, a conceptual approach to addressing our failing facilities, as well as to optimize township operations. This phase of the project was not intended, nor was it commissioned to create specific designs, floor plans, programming decisions for individual facilities. We will not, in this phase, determine how many windows or chairs or ping pong tables that are going to go into a particular building. That will come later. The purpose of this phase of the study is to evaluate program fit, and using this information The township can then embark on the next phases, which include a detailed financial analysis and planning process to determine the path forward for the future. And at that point, once we have our vision and our financial plan, then the actual design work for individual projects can begin. So where are we now? This past fall, after nearly 2 years of work and many public meetings, working groups, board meetings, we received a study with a number of different test fits in many different sites with different approaches. Having received and considered that study, as well as all the resident feedback from the public presentation last fall, the team has now developed a hybrid vision that optimizes and centralizes certain functions while maintaining community services that continue to honor a sense of place in our individual neighborhoods. The vision being presented this evening is quite honestly a pivot from where many of us thought we may end up in terms of limiting our real estate holdings, facilities management, and operating efforts. But your positive feedback and the positive feedback from board members these many months help focus the team to the point where they've achieved this hybrid vision that allows the township to modernize and upgrade certain services while keeping other services directly in existing neighborhood locations. So tonight we'll get an overview of this hybrid plan. As you can see from the agenda, we've set aside some time for public comment. And by the way, we're going to follow the 3-minute rule as we did last time to ensure that as many people as possible get a chance to participate in the discussion. But as you evaluate this concept, please remember that this is a high-level vision. I've even had to remind myself through this process that I need to get out of the weeds and look at the 30,000-foot view. Details about how big or small or wide or tall a facility is going to be is not part of this phase of the project. It will come later. And I say this not to diminish the import of this phase, because the visioning phase is absolutely critical for us to embark on economic feasibility and design, which come next. I'll also say that while the team has heard and did its best to adapt and incorporate ideas and suggestions made by both board members and the public, in fairness, not every suggestion could be incorporated into the vision that you'll see tonight. Which brings me now to the next steps after this process. I'm going to start by saying that while the board may have some questions, board members may have some questions and some minimal discussion, there will be no vote on this vision tonight. We want to receive the proposal. We want to receive feedback during tonight's meeting, and then also give the public as well as board members a chance to digest the concept and provide additional feedback before any decisions are made. Several times during this presentation, you'll be given the website and email address where you could provide additional feedback after this meeting over the next several weeks. That stated, while we are not going to be voting tonight, we do need to move this process along. So I expect that this vision, or some modified version of it, will be presented for debate and vote in the near future, likely at our next month's legislative meeting in April. That'd be April 17th. So stay tuned for that. Keep the 17th on your radar screens if you continue to be interested in this discussion. As for additional next steps, once our conceptual approach and vision are determined, we will embark on the next phases. The first being a fiscal analysis and financial feasibility review. It's acknowledged that this project is going to be costly. And once our vision is in place, we can better explore our ability to obtain grants, engage in financially beneficial partnerships, and obtain other sorts of financing that will help reduce any burden on our taxpayers. You'll hear more about that a little later in the presentation, but some of those efforts have already begun, and some successfully. And I'll give you a little preview. You're going to hear about a very big grant that we just received over the last couple of days. I'll talk about that later on in the presentation. But those efforts will continue to commence in earnest once we have our vision in place. And then once we've secured a solid fiscal foundation and plan for our facilities and fully explored all available buckets of funding, we can then embark on a holistic and resident engaged design process. What a community center or pool actually looks like and provides to the community will be the topic of many conversations with our resident facilities group, local community groups, and our public. During the design phase, there will be many opportunities to help shape the programs and content for each and every one of these buildings and sites. Specific plans will be developed, tweaked, and modified based on those discussions. So with that, I've done enough talking. I thank you for your indulgence, but I thought it was important to help frame our discussion for tonight and talk about what phase we're in and hopefully coming to a conclusion on. And hopefully I've helped do that. So with that, I'm going to take the opportunity now to turn the microphone over to our team of architects to present a revised vision for our township facilities. So Drew, you want to take it away?
Sure thing. Let me share my screen. Hopefully this works for everybody. Someone give me a thumbs up once my screen is shared here.
There you go.
All right. Everything looking good here?
Yeah.
Yes.
Very good. Thank you. Okay. So we're very happy to be back here again tonight with the community. Just to start out, as Commissioner Arman mentioned, you can send your questions and comments to the email address on the screen here, facilities@cheltenhampa.gov. And then the presentation will be posted online, just like we've been doing all the way along on the website, so you all can get to it after the fact. And just a reminder, we're really happy to be back here again tonight. My name is Drew Levine. I'm a partner at Revision Architecture. I'm an architect and Cheltenham Township resident, and just very, very happy to be here, part of this conversation with the community and the township staff and the commissioners. Eric, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Thanks, Drew. I'm Eric Gianelli. I'm also a resident of Cheltenham Township for nearly 30 years now. I'm also a partner at KCBA Architects. We do appreciate all the residents' time, all our neighbors' time going through this. It's really appreciated. We've enjoyed the feedback, and we look to help improve this study with your feedback as we go forward. Thanks. Rick?
Trying to unmute. Good evening, I'm Rick Stamper. I'm an architect with KCBA Architects, and I'm doing a lot of the work behind the scenes on the study here. So happy to be a part of it.
Okay, so just to build on what Commissioner Arman said here as an introduction, you know, what the facilities study is and what the facility study is not. We talked about this last fall. We'll just bring it up again to ground and center what we're looking at tonight. So the study is a technical evaluation of the existing facilities. We're not going to get into that tonight. It's part of the report that you can find on the website. We kind of went over this in detail at some previous meetings. It's a development of a preliminary space program of needs and wants with the township staff. Again, you'll find that in the report for your review. It's identification of options for the facilities. That's really what we're looking at here. And the point of this is to generate a high level cost model so we can have a sense of the rough order of magnitude of where we're heading and any of these options for how we might address our facilities needs and wants in various configurations throughout the township. The study is not an economic feasibility study. And so although there is some rough order of magnitude cost estimates in here, this is extremely high level estimates at this point based on the information we have. It is not yet at the point of saying how this is going to be funded. That's the next step here for the commissioners and the township staff to take on, is to figure out you know, what this actually means when we put out these numbers and over a duration of time. It is not the final program for any of these projects. As Commissioner Arman mentioned, this is going to be developed and configured with the residents of the, you know, of our township and of the specific neighborhoods that this is serving. We'll have lots of time to go through this in great detail to figure this out. And it's also not the final design of any of these facilities. And so we're going to be showing you modified versions of the site plans that you've seen in past presentations. But again, this is trying to look at the overall test fitting of program to site. And that's an important strategy that we do in planning is we say, does this program fit here? Is there a possible way that this could work? This is not the final design. It's just an indication that, yes, we can do this on a particular property. And so I can get the slide to advance. In terms of thinking about where we are and what the next steps are, you know, our facilities study, you know, that's something that has been in the works from 2022 through 2023. We had a presentation late in 2023 that many of you attended, where we presented the summary findings of that study. And we've been doing a lot of reflection on that based on the community feedback in collaboration with township staff and the commissioners to get back to where we are tonight, to talk to you about where we are. And so what we're really looking at here in the first and second quarter of this year is the board recommendation. And based on that, there will be additional community feedback, at which point, as we said, we move into the next phase of this, which is financial analysis. Based on the financial analysis, then we get into the implementation of this. And this will be a multi-phase implementation. This is not all going to happen all at once. It's going to take time, and there's going to be sequencing involved with this. Within each phase, there will be community feedback. This is going to be an important part of the process as we get the design rolling for the various phases of the project. And in terms of figuring out that phasing in order, it's really going to be dependent on a number of things which we expect to kind of unfold over the next few months or the remainder of 2024 as we get into this financial analysis. It's going to have to do with specific township priorities, available funding opportunities, and also the ability to maintain operations. So we want to make sure that we maintain certain things, like we want to make sure that we have pools that remain functional while we're addressing the new solutions. We want to make sure, obviously, we're all in the, you know, thinking we want to keep our libraries going while we're addressing libraries. We want to keep public works and police going as we're moving along. So it's very important to think about the logistics of a multi-phase project like this, and it's something that we're going to be figuring out over time here. So what have we been studying over the last few months? Because it's been a while since we were last in front of you. And we want to first highlight what we've been looking at. And so we've been reviewing the community feedback and exploring the construction of 2 new modern pool facilities at the current pool locations. We've also adjusted the focus of the overall concept here to include redevelopment of 3 community centers at Lamont, Roland, and Glenside, with increased flexibility for township programming, community space, and library services. We've also taken a closer look at Wall Park. We've reconfigured the site to no longer have the centralized pool that we previously showed. We've incorporated some community space within the new centralized library. So we do, in addition to the library, we have some community space that can be used outside of the library programming. We've looked at all of the recreation functions on the property, and as we took the pools away and picked up some extra space, we are able to retain a soccer field on that site. We've been looking at parking and site considerations. We've been looking at some Church Road traffic considerations. And we've also been thinking about trails networks, both within the site and also potential points of connection to future township trail system. And then the other thing that we've been looking at is we've been doing some minor adjustments on the Briar site of the municipal campus to pick up some additional efficiencies and think about flexibility for partnerships in the community. And so when we zoom out and look at the whole township and say, what are we doing now? What this new hybrid concept that we're calling it at this point, it's concept E. We had A through D last time. This is concept E. It is a hybrid scheme because we're still doing some centralization, but we're also doing some stuff in the actual neighborhoods and the communities. So just working from west to east here. In Glenside, we have the Glenside Pool and the Glenside Community Center. Moving into the center of the township, we have the Wall Park Library and Recreation area, and then the Briar Municipal Campus. Eventually, Public Works and the Elkins Park Library will be divested. We'll come back to divestment in a second. We have the Lamont Community Center, we have Conklin Pool, and we have Roland Community Center, and the eventual divestment of the Shovel Shop and the Community Arts Center building. And so, the other thing is that we also will be looking at a future public works site, and that site is still to be determined. There's some things that we're looking at and evaluating, but we don't have the specific of that site yet. In terms of divestments, and when we say divestment, what that means, it can occur in many different forms. When we divest a property, that it could be a sale, it could be a gift, or some other mechanism for transfer, to release a property from the township's liabilities and maintenance and everything else. These divestments of real estate will be intentional. The goal here is to preserve our communities, our programming, and our township character. So digging into this concept, E for the hybrid, centralization and community focus, which we're going to show you some images of in a second, but just looking at it high level first, we're still looking at a unification of the primary library services at Wall Park. As we said in the past, this is the quickest and most cost-effective way from a first cost and operating cost perspective to provide the Cheltenham community the high quality and modernized services sought by residents as highlighted in the library system strategic plan. We will be looking at redevelopment of the two current pool locations at Glenside and Conklin pools. And at this point, we've taken very hard looks at these two properties, and given the extent of the work that is required that we're looking at this point, the recommendation is a full redesign and reconstruction with the goal of really improving what we're doing here and maximizing our enjoyment and our revenue generation capacity and the long-term cost benefit of each site. So it's not just relining the pools where they are. It's really looking, trying to look at this with a little bit of fresh eyes. We also will be talking tonight about redevelopment of community centers in the current neighborhoods. And so this would be redevelopment of Lamont with a historic component, the Roland building, and conversion of the Glenside Library to a community center to replace the former community services that occurred at Glenside Hall. If you all remember from our presentations last year, Glenside Hall has some major structural challenges to it. And at this point in time, the recommendation as the centralized library system gets up and running is to kind of pivot the Glenside community services over to the library building. And we'll be talking a little bit about Glenside Hall when we look at the pool tonight. Within these buildings, within these community buildings, space will be available for library services. And this is to be determined with the township and also with the library system. This could be things like a book pickup drop-off, children's programming, reading groups, computer access. These are all things that we'll get to in time as we dig deep into the programming and space planning of these individual facilities. We're still looking at reconstruction of the municipal campus on the Briar site. As we said previously, this is the fastest and most cost-effective way to keep the township staff up and running. Even within this site, it's going to be phased. We're going to be doing, probably police first so we can swing them over, right? We'll figure out the logistics of this, but that's a mini phasing project in and of itself. And then, as we mentioned also, construction of a new public works facility in a to be determined location. It does not need to be contiguous to the other township facilities. It is a very strategic positioning of Public Works because this is services that we need easy access to roads to get out to the various corners of the township. And again, this is one where we need to make sure that we do not have a gap in our services, that we're able to maintain current operations while the new site is being constructed. As we learn more about the site for that, we'll obviously bring that to you. So from here, I think we're going to jump into the individual components of this here and walk you through it. Eric's going to be leading these. So Eric, why don't you jump in here to Wall Park?
All right, thanks, Drew. So as we look at option E, as we do this part, we're going to take a look at Wall Park. We heard a lot of the comments back in 2023 about, you know, this not identifying and being sympathetic to the Wall House. And I want to kind of reiterate that the Wall Park concept focuses on the Wall House Museum, and everything kind of radiates off of it. So the library, this community component, as to one side, you'll have the playground, parking just above it, and the recreational components over to the one side. But everything's really radiating around and focusing in on the Wall House Museum. So I wanted to make sure that was understood. It's very important for the community that we're respectful to that. The next item relative to this park, you can go to the next slide. It's important to understand that the traffic along Church Road has a lot of traffic on it. As you all know, I personally worked right across the creek there at 8116 Old York Road when I was an architect with Hassinger and Schwam, and then ultimately with just Schwam Architects. I parked in that lot right over there, and I had a hard time getting out of that park just to get on the Church Road so I can come back home. And I do think introducing a third lane, a turning lane, will help traffic flow. It's not going to speed it up, but it'll let it flow, and it'll make it a little bit easier access for the visitors. Go ahead, Drew, to the next slide. So one of those important items we were talking about is creating a major pedestrian crossing, Church Road, that we can ultimately connect to Briar Campus for additional parking for one way or another, whether the township needs additional parking or if the park needs additional parking. We believe a nice pedestrian access here and a controlled access will make it safe for our residents and our guests that come to our community. And as we go on to this, is that aligning these streets, it's a meeting house as well as a spur road, will help the focus your sight lines as you come up to them. And again, safety is going to be the number one item here. I'm going to cover this in another slide in a minute, but safety for, we got like 17-year-olds just learning how to drive. They'll be coming to this park. We have senior citizens that, maybe aren't as, their mobile skills aren't as strong as they were when they were 20. And we want to make it simpler for our community to engage the park and exit the park. If you go to the next slide, Drew, you can see what we have currently. We have ultimately 5 access points along Church Road in that short span where coming from the east, the first access point to the park. And then you have your next access point to the retail center. Then you got the spur road, and then another access point to Wall Park, as well as the access point from Meeting House. And you can see that's a lot of activity, and especially with some of our younger drivers that might be coming into this park. So we thought one of the major options here was to fix the circulation over here, and by moving the access to the park to Spur Road, we were able to move some of the recreational components, get more green space, and we'll go back to we'll go forward, Drew. We were able to get more land for recreational space while maintaining that focus at Wall Park. So I wanted to make sure that's kind of understood why that move was made. It's made in part for safety and security of our residents and our visitors, but also to better utilize the potential land that we have here in our township without compromising the quality and the aesthetics of the Wall Museum. And I believe that this library community center, this is just a graphic here, however it gets formed, could very much complement the Wall House. And maybe there's this interactive garden that goes in between them, and the kids that are going to the library now will have the ability to go to the museum, and maybe there's this interactive garden in an activity area that for all ages, whether they're youth and or adults, and or for any kind of other special events our township may have, white white party where we all dress in our white clothes and have a nice little meal and a glass of wine. You know, it's just about that community spirit that we could have, and that could be a nice little hosting place right in that little area. Also, by doing what we were doing, it was important for us to move the parking lot to the opposite side of the athletic field. So as you come down Church Road, or any of our visitors come through our township, you see a nice park, a very, you know, green park and a very playful park. And we don't see a sea of parking. The parking's kind of tucked in behind that. And by connecting that parking with Meeting House and Spur Road, you can see that now we have a lot of chances to move. We've taken what we believe we had, I think we had 75 parking spaces, and now we've doubled that. And I think that's another important item, is that our park, I've been there many times myself, it's very crowded on the weekends. And I think parking is going to be an important component of that. And ultimately, I think the next slide here is really that we need to make sure we take care of our stormwater, or I'm sorry, the trails. So this park will now link our trails, some of our trails in Cheltenham, over along Church Road that are leading you over towards the Crescent Valley. And it also connect as you go towards the substation, towards the public works area. So this could be a nice component for our Wall Park. We have internal trails in the Wall Park for little exercising and jogging. So, you know, it becomes a real interactive community component. And one of the most important things in our township is maintaining our stormwater. So ultimately, when we get into this, we will want to make sure that that's a very strong consideration, and how we can maybe improve the stormwater, maybe go beyond the minimums to be a good steward of our resources here in our community. Next. The Briar campus. It's a terrific site. The original Briar House is a terrific symbol for our townships. It has there's a lot of class. We'd love to try to implement that into the growth of this, and we'll get into that in a little minute. But as we look at this, we wanted to increase the parking. We definitely wanted to hide the parking from Old York Road, so it's hidden, but still very usable and very functional. So we also included staff parking, so staff doesn't necessarily have to take up the parking spaces of the public or take the front row spaces, but the staff can park to one side, and then the public can have a little closer access to our front doors to our municipal campus component here. So here we would be providing access from the public to both the township, police, and EMS. And it's all one-stop shopping for our municipal services, and I think that'll be a benefit for our community as well. One of the important things for getting our police force certified is to make sure we have two means of access or exiting for our police department. So you can see here we're showing one over to Spur, one over to Westminster, always maintaining two, so that in just in case one is blocked, our responders, whether EMS or police, can immediately engage our community and help our residents. So next slide. So the existing Briar, so definitely we would look to do everything we could to do the addition and renovation to that to maintain its character. We'll do a thorough study that will be needed to see how that would be done and how it could work. There's a lot of different floor elevations, as you may have heard from our previous presentations. So it's very complicated in there. It was originally a high-end residence, and as you convert it to a township, there's certain things that aren't efficient in it, but it would definitely have to be studied because the character of the facility is stellar, and we want to do everything we can to keep it. But ultimately, if you have to, it may have to get replaced, but we want to show you that it would probably be in the same location. Go ahead.
Just to pick up, Eric, real quick on something that you had said about Wall Park, also just to illustrate to everybody, we don't have it shown here yet. Again, we're still just in the early phases, but one of the intents here is to provide a connection from the municipal campus here down Spur Road to the Wall Park campus, right? That's that big intersection that we were previously talking about. So again, the idea is to provide some direct connection between these two campuses.
That's true. That's true.
Yep.
And ultimately, there's a potential opportunity for the township to partner with other community associations with the township building, so that building could be, say, a little bit more robust, and maybe there's some space there they can partner with, again, with other township components in there for their community. And then ultimately, again, this is another area where we want to take advantage of improving our stormwater management, again, being good stewards of our township. We know every once in a while we do get a lot of rain, and it does burden the infrastructure. So hopefully we can do a little better job ourselves of keeping that on-site stormwater on site and clean it and let it re-enter the earth in its natural way. Conklin Pool, this is a terrific pool. We did talk about how this would have to be kind of rethought out, maybe thinking of the next contemporary standards for pools here. And one of the things that we were looking at here was to create a kiddie pool and a shallow pool towards the front near the entrance, so where the parents might engage, and then ultimately increase the adults and the older children to the back pool where you have a diving area or some lap lane, so then a little bit more privacy for the citizens that want to use that in that back area. But what's nice about this is that you have this kind of clear progression as you come into the pool. You got your locker rooms and change, you got a snack stand, and that's kind of where most of the kids and their parents will be. And then ultimately, again, back in the back area where the adults and the older kids would be more active. The parking lot, go ahead and go to the next slide. The parking lot is, we would pave that and have it striped. It's actually a well-designed parking lot. It's just not striped, so it's not necessarily utilized to the best it can. We believe if we got it paved and striped, I think our residents will do a better job of taking advantage of every space that's there, and it'll be better for the community. This would also include a drop-off for the parents that have their youngsters with them, and they need to drop them off while they go off with their other friends there. So there's that opportunity as well. And again, this will be a topic of every slide pretty much, is that we want to manage stormwater. And most of our facilities were done prior to those requirements. And I think as we've learned that this is an important part of our environment, and we'll definitely make this an important part of this potential project. And then we have Glenside. It's a little bit different. It's very similar functions, being a contemporary standards, meeting the contemporary standards of the pools. It has a little bit of different kind of layout, given its Glenside Hall was there as a particular kind of flavor given that. So we wanted to show that we were very respectful to Glenside Hall and keep a component of it. Maybe if you go to the next slide, maybe we're able to maintain that entrance to Glenside Hall as an idea. Ultimately, that's kind of innovating the idea of having the lockers there. And then as you engage the pool, you have, again, the kiddie and the shallow end on the one side, and the adults and the older children on the other side. And then we have a little snack stand. You can go to the next slide. We have a little snack stand and a pavilion that can be accessed for the pool, as well as Renninger Park. We believe that even when the pool is closed, we could have security gates come down, and ultimately then our township residents can use the playground and ultimately use the Renninger Park, and have a snack stand be used for both the pool and or the events that are going on in the recreation areas there. And then ultimately here we will have a drop-off area as well as you have at Conklin. And again, the stormwater management will be another important part of this project as well. Our Glenside Campus Community Center. So Drew touched on this. The idea would be that we would kind of renovate the existing library into a new community center, and ultimately that program has to be determined by several meetings. It's got to be determined with the residents in our community. It'll be a very collaborative process. Nobody's determined what program is going in any of the particular buildings, but I think it's a good idea. The building's in sound structural shape, and it would invite the opportunity for good community engagement there. And I think Drew touched on this earlier, that this would be a great place for some library services that would be implemented there, along with some other kind of computer areas, reading rooms and reading groups, and other community rooms and activities that could partake there. Lamont, well, this is the Lamont Community Center. So here, this one's got a great opportunity. They have terrific history that it's probably not displayed in the manner it needs to be. And this is the opportunity for us to engage Lamont and kind of re-envision what Lamont could be on the inside with their history and their legacy. It would also have that community components too, where you might have some kind of library component that's there, as well as some of the other programs that might need to be there. And again, we'll meet with the Lamont community and the township residents to see what that program needs to be and what they want and how they want that to function. One of the options here would be to also upgrade the existing playground, possibly introduce a new basketball court facility if that is desired. And wait, we don't have a stormwater management slide on that one, Drew. And then there's Roland. Roland, a big part of this is to remove the old original 4-square classroom building that is in severe need of repairs, and it would be so costly to maintain over its life that we've recommended to remove that. This program is not being used, and we thought we could turn that into a nice garden open space, help increase the parking down there at Lamont, which is very limited, but we can squeeze out a couple more spaces. It'll be great for Roland and then the community, the people that are using it. And then here's another opportunity to update and improve the playground, and also update and improve the basketball court as needed. And the programming is very similar to Lamont and Glenside in that we have to figure out what that is, but there's a great opportunity to envision what Roland could be and how that would work. The addition that was done to the 4-square building is in sound shape. It may need a little bit of ADA fixing, but the building is sound. It's got great natural light and great. It'll be a great atmosphere for our community. I think you might be muted, Drew.
I just want to reiterate that, what you're seeing here with the community centers, we don't have the program developed yet at this point. It's the idea that we will be redeveloping the community centers in this concept, and that we're including it in our cost model. So that's the reason you're not seeing detailed floor plans here. We'll get to that in time. But for right now, we're just looking at high level. We know we're going to be renovating these facilities. Okay, so I think we're going to pause here, and just before we head into the finances, Commissioner Arman, I think you wanted to say something here.
I just want to interject before we get into the last slide or two, and I know we're starting to run on time, but the presentation, particularly of the community centers and the library, obviously impacts and has a great deal to do with our library system. So I thought I saw Mary Kay from Cheltenham Township Library System on the call. I want to just invite her to weigh in for, I don't mean to put you on the spot, Mary Kay, but just weigh in for a minute or so and just talk about how this dovetails with the strategic plan that the library system did, and what your facilities needs and interests are on behalf of the system.
Thank you, Commissioner Arman. I want to say that both the library system and our library board support this proposal for the central library with the satellite facilities. We believe that this proposal is going to provide significant benefits to the community, and it also aligns with our strategic facility priorities. To remain a sustainable organization that can continue to provide the residents of Cheltenham Township with high-quality modern library services, we need to consolidate CTLS into one location. Having said that, we also recognize the tradition of the walkable neighborhood library services throughout the township, and this plan would allow us to offer specific high-demand library services in small satellite locations that are in existing township buildings. So this dovetails and aligns very nicely with the library system's strategic planning.
Thank you, Mary Kay. Before I turn it back to Drew and Eric, the next slide talks about finances. So I just wanted to give our community a 1 or 2 minute overview of what our funding strategies are, and what our plan is going forward in the next phase. So in terms of funding strategies, this board is determined, and staff are determined, to pursue as many grants as possible, whether they're from the county, and there are several county grants that we can and will and have been going after, state grants, as well as federal grant money that's out there. Other strategies that we intend, and by the way, in terms of grant money, staff and commissioners have already begun to pursue grant money in anticipation of developing some of these facilities plans. In particular, the township has already sought $11.75 million in grants. They're either submitted and some have been awarded, and some are in progress. And in particular, I want to give a shout out for those of you who don't know, Commissioner Ziegmanfeld and others, staff have worked tirelessly to obtain grant funding, particularly one particular request of $3.8 million from the federal government, federal budget, through Congresswoman Dean's office. And Commissioner Ziegmanfeld coordinated the effort, and kudos to him, because his work and the support and advocacy of Representative Dean has paid off. In the budget that was signed by President Biden just over the weekend, Cheltenham Township received $3.8 million. In addition, by the way, to another $200,000 that was already awarded for the Lamont Community Center, which is one of the crown jewels of our community center network, and really gives us a leg up on being able to focus on the Lamont Community Center in very short order. So that's exciting. We have grants submitted for the Roland Community Center, for the Public Works facility, as well as the library. So additional funding sources for community projects, alternative energy, and trails are on the radar. More will be sought once this concept sort of is adopted, or a concept like this is adopted. And the goal, again, is to obtain as much funding as possible, whether it's through grants, strategic partnerships, creative financing, get as much funding as possible before we go either to the bond market or to our taxpayers for funding options. So we've already enjoyed significant success, and hopefully we'll have more success to come. So with that, I do want to turn it back over to Drew for the conclusion of their presentation.
Thank you, Commissioner Arman. So the last thing we have here to show you before we open up for public comment is a rough order of magnitude estimate here for this hybrid concept E. And Eric, do you want to jump through this one real quick?
Yeah, sure. I believe over the last couple of meetings we've shown some numbers, and they were basically a range of numbers. We thought it might be better if we kind of show you where we believe these numbers would be if we were bidding this in 2024. And please understand that that's not the case. We wanted to show you what those numbers would look like. So the Wall Park and the library and its recreation, this would be around $19 million to construct those components there in place. You know, relocating the playground, adding the pickleball courts and tennis courts, and slightly moving the soccer field. But we already have the lights, and those would get relocated. So all that's kind of in the road widening is all considered in that idea in this price, or in this estimate, I should say. The community service, this would include the Roland's campus, Lamont's campus, as well as Glenside Center, Glenside Pool, and Conklin Pool. This is going to be around $23,890,000 for that work. Please understand, and Drew touched on this, none of this will be done simultaneously. Some of these projects will be phased. One pool will get done, then the other pool will get done, because we're going to need to have one pool open all the time. So, I believe everybody understands that. The Briar Municipal Campus, we're estimating at around $19 million, but please understand, we don't know if how that's going to be with the Briar Estate, whether it's a renovation addition or a new building. So these are just estimates. And the Public Works relocation, based on the square footage in the program, as we understand it, would be around 13,700,000. So a total of construction costs, 76,100,000. Now there's some, we put in there some soft costs and contingencies. If anybody doesn't understand what a soft cost is, it's basically your permit fees, your other regulatory fees, your furniture, your signage, your wayfinding signage, and all those kind of components that are in there. You also other professional fees that are in there. But that kind of covers all those other items in a project that you don't see behind the scenes. And then the contingency there, obviously we need to have something like that if there's some kind of renovation, soils that we find are unsuitable. So we always try to put contingencies on all the projects so that just in case we hit something that's unforeseen, it's planned in the budget. Ultimately, that the project goes forward, it wouldn't be more than that. It would be under this project, but we have that in there just in case. So now, if you add that all up, we're looking around $102 to $103 million for the entire effort, based on those estimates and the scope that as we understand it today.
And just to clarify on the contingency, we have construction contingency, as Eric mentioned, for things that we can't know about until we start construction. If we've got, if we encounter hazardous materials or rock in the ground, things like that. But it's also a contingency at this early phase of a project for the things that we don't know about the design and the program, those things that could change as we get into the more detailed programming and design here. That contingency number, the goal throughout the course of the development is that contingency number shrinks the more we know about the project and the more we know about the site. The other thing that's very important to note about this, as Eric said, is that these are the numbers that we're using our best rough order of magnitude estimates for today. And one certainty in life these days is construction escalation and inflation. We know that's going to happen. And so as we go through a strategic phasing, planning, and scheduling for the project, that will also help to dial in what sort of escalation and inflation to assume for projects based on when they're going to be procured and implemented.
Thanks.
So with that, we just want to thank everyone for sitting through another presentation by us. We were probably tired of hearing Eric and I talk at this point. We appreciate your patience. As we said earlier, please send questions and comments to the email address on the screen. And the presentation will be posted online on the township's website, along with the running all the presentations to date and the updates. So with that, we are going to exit PowerPoint and turn things back over to. Yep, go for it.
Thanks, Drew. So thank you to Drew, Eric, and Rick for this comprehensive presentation. It is clear that a lot of thought and work has gone into this, and it is really, really appreciated. So thank you for that. Now is the time for Citizens Forum. We're running a few minutes behind, so we'll sort of extend Citizens Forum on the back end. So for anyone who wants to speak, please raise your hand, and I will do my best to call on you. And when you're called upon, feel free to unmute yourself and provide your comments. I'm going to ask that you do your best to limit it to no more than 3 minutes or less, and so we get everybody a chance to speak. So Doug Karen right now is the only person with their hand up, so you get to go first.
Awesome. Thank you very much. I think this hybrid plan seems to be much more in line to what the residents wanted from our last meeting. So I'm actually amazed that you listened so well and that this plan reflects it. So big thank you. Another thank you before I get into my 2 points. Big thank you to Mitch for trailblazing that $3.8 million grant for Cheltenham. That is totally awesome. So thank you, Mitch. So 2 points. As I looked at the presentation for Wall Park, it looks like there are only 4 pickleball courts, but it looked like there's room for at least 6, if not even more than 6. And I just wanted to say, since Wall Park will be the only place for pickleball for Cheltenham, and that it's such a growing sport, please put in as many as will fit in that space. And if more than 4 will fit, please fit more. And if more than 2 tennis courts will fit, it didn't look like it would, but please maximize the space as best you can. That's my comment there. And then a question on the pools. The 6-lane pool that's going to be at both Conklin and Glenside, are they going to be reserved for lap swimming the whole time that the pool is open, or will there be? Right now, there's like 15 minutes an hour or a half hour at 5 o'clock at Conklin. Is that going to be lap swimming the whole time?
So that's a great question. At this point, we don't have an answer to that one. That is going to be part of the programming phase. But it's certainly important, and I know that many residents fall on various sides of that debate. But it's certainly a discussion that'll happen as this process goes on. But at this point, we don't even know that it's actually going to be 6 lanes, depending on funding or what have you. It may be 8 lanes, it may be 5 lanes, so it's just an image to demonstrate the location and sort of the fit. But you raise a good point, and certainly something to continue to raise as we go through this process. So Mr.
Great.
Karen, thank you for your comments.
And as a lap swimmer, I would love a few lanes at least, if possible.
Very good. Thank you, sir.
Doug, you're getting demanding.
Sorry, man.
Julie Haywood is next.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for that presentation. I'm currently a library board member as well as the president of the library board. And so I was really pleased to see that this really didn't diverge too much from the original plan to really have a centralized library. I think that is, as Mary Kay, our executive director, shared, is in line with our strategic plan and is consistent with our library facilities priorities as well. It was also good to see that Glenside Library would be converted into another community center. That'll be really accessible to the children who go and families who use Glenside Pool, as well as have a satellite facility features to it in terms of services, library services that can be offered out of that location as well. So thank you for that presentation. Just wanted to share that. My one question is about, not about the libraries, but about the Cheltenham Center for the Arts. I didn't see anything in the proposal that addressed where that would be located or whether that would be addressed at all. So thank you. And Mitch, thank you for getting that money from the feds.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah. So, Ms. Haywood, thank you for that question about the Art Center. Right now, the proposal is to divest that particular property, but that does not, as Drew said earlier in the presentation, that does not necessarily mean sell to the highest bidder, right? It could, but it also could mean gifting that property to an entity, whether it's the Art Center or some other facsimile. And what I will tell you is, as we get into the programming phase, assuming that property is in fact divested, again, whether it's to the Art Center or to some other entity, if Arts does not have a home at its current location, there are opportunities, whether it's at Roland or elsewhere, for the Art Center and the community that participates in the programming there to have a home in Cheltenham. So that is certainly a programming priority that will be addressed when we get to that phase. But at this point, the property itself will either be divested or with or in coordination with the Art Center, or perhaps in another direction. Emma Raymond.
Sorry, I was on the spot and lost my unmute.
That's quite all right. Go ahead.
Thank
Could you tell us where you live?
I live in Elkins Park on Church Road.
Thank you.
So I am very appreciative of this presentation. I really liked the direction that this went. I really am excited to see the connectivity to future trails. I like the idea of looking more carefully at how we can get around the neighborhood on bike and on foot to encourage that kind of transition from space to space. So I'm really excited to hear more about that. And I really like the sort of hub and satellite way this is developed. And I'm really looking forward to the next planning phase. It looks like this is a very thoughtful process that has taken some time to get off and going. And I look forward to participating in it more in the future and hearing how we can address the number of swim lanes that we need to provide to Doug, and also to theater inclusion, and also to sports fields. And I'm sure that all of those groups and many others will be able to participate in the future, and I look forward to all of them being able to do that. So thank you very much, and I will cede the rest of my time.
Thank you, Ms. Raymond. Leanne Scher.
Hi,
evening.
I live in Elkins Park, and I also asked a question in the chat about the Art Center because it's a very highly utilized building. It covers all age groups, a wide variety of types of art. And I think it would really be sad to lose all the projects and types of classes and broad expanse of art available to everybody that's there. And I just wondered if there is nowhere in Elkins Park that this can be continued in some way that would be big enough to house what's in that building now. I understand the building's not in great shape, but it's very highly utilized. And I just think it would be very sad to lose that. We're a very artistic community. We have a huge musical history with a lot of very famous people who came from here. We have a lot of artists in the area. And I just feel like it's very sad to think that we would let that go.
Thank you, Ms. Scher, for your comments. Again, just to reiterate, from a programming point of view, arts in Cheltenham is important. So there's not an intention to lose anything, but that particular property is in a tough shape. So that is the basis for the recommendation. But I appreciate your comments this evening. Thank you. Next is Jerry Brown. Ms. Brown.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. Jerry Brown, Lamont Citizens United, and I live in Lamont. And woohoo! Thank you. I want to just give some shout outs. I'm sorry, my camera isn't working on my computer, but I see all your beautiful faces. I'd like to just take this opportunity right now to thank Mitch Ziegenfeld, Brad Pransky, Napoleon, all the commissioners, Armin, our new commissioner. I just want to thank every commissioner and my girl, Ann Rappaport. I mean, what more can I say? We really appreciate it. You all worked with us really hard to try to get this heater on. I mean, it's been like over 3 years, and it looks like we have a little bit of traction now. And I'm so happy about that. And I'm sure my team is happy about it as well. And I don't want to leave anybody's name out, but I just thank everybody. I thank everybody from Lamont Citizens United that worked so hard, for us to to try to like, without beating anybody up, to get this, to help, you know, and be concerned about getting this, helping to get this grant and talk about it. And Mitch, you're just a bomb, as the kids would say. But I like to thank Barry, my team, Lamont Citizens United, Barry Galliard, Joyce Workman, Tom Mullion, Nicole Drumgold, Teresa Camarudo, Frederica Wall, all the team from Lamont Citizens United. I like to thank them also, because we all stuck together and we band together. And all we want now is that heater on. And I want to know, can somebody answer the question and tell me, how long does it take now? You know, once you get grants, how long does it usually take before things start happening?
Ms. Brown, thank you. It sounded like you're accepting an Academy Award, by the way.
I think this is the longest I spoke since I've been on.
It's all good.
But
It's all
thank you.
good.
But I just had that
you know-
question. Usually, if like any kind of grants coming in, how long does it usually take for it to start?
Yeah, that's a great question. I don't know that we know the answer exactly, but there is a process.
Okay.
That being said, once you have the commitment, it's not necessarily money in the bank, but it's like money in the bank. So I think
Matt, can I add one thing?
Go ahead.
When you get a grant like the congressional grant we got, it actually establishes a higher level of legitimacy. So when you're soliciting other grants from the state and the county and public-private partnerships, having that commitment from the U.S. Congress really makes a difference when you're telling your story. So I think that's going to make a dramatic difference. And Jerry, delighted that we finally, after waiting all these months, we have the positive news we got.
And Ms. Brown, just to add to that, the work of your group, Lamont Citizens United, is critical and will continue to be critical. So please continue to stay engaged as we get to the next phases of this facilities project. So thank you very much.
And thanks, Joyce Workman. If I didn't say a name, I don't want to get beat up. Thank you.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Ms. Brown.
All right.
Tom Peterson and Amy Fry.
Well, let me get in there and look.
Well, just tell me.
I don't know. I have to look, get in there and see.
I'm sorry, Peggy, you have to mute yourself. Thank you.
Hello.
And it looks like Peggy wants to speak, and is having trouble raising her hand. So Peggy, I will let you speak after Mr. Peterson and Ms. Freed.
Hi, this is Amy Freed. I live on Landfair Road in Cheltenham. I generally like the plan a lot. I have just a few questions or concerns. One is at the Conklin Pool, they had just put in a few years ago a sort of indigenous plantings that they had, which also I think was helping with some stormwater issues also. And I couldn't see anything on the map that indicated what the plans were for that. Drew, if you could speak to that.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Drew, if you wouldn't mind just.
Yeah, I'm so happy that you brought that up because I love it. And it's such a wonderful thing. And we were absolutely respectful of the location of that and don't intend to in any way infringe upon it. I think it will be part of the design and construction logistics to protect that area during construction. So I think as we work with the site engineers to figure out how we're actually going to look at the whole property, that we will be keeping that very much in mind. But I really am glad that you brought that up.
Thank you. I'm glad you'll be, seeking to protect that area. I just had two more very short comments. One is I always get a little nervous when I see on plans that things are, kind of going to be worked on subsequent to the project at hand, because I feel like they're never going to get done. So the idea of making the properties accessible via bicycle, it seems like a lot of those plans are, to be done later. And I would encourage that be part of the planning at at this point is to make the township much more accessible for bicycles and walking. And this is not just self-interest. You know, I'm up in years now, so I'm not going to be doing the bicycling myself, but I would really like to see the township do that and do that at the same time. And if possible, so that we don't have to wait a few more years, especially with, you know, the sort of global crisis, climate crisis that we're facing. To that end, also the use of solar panels. I'm assuming that'll be highly included and recommended. And the other thing is, I would like to get involved, for example, in the Conklin pool planning. I mean, I'm not an architect, but I've been using it for like 30 years at all stages, and I've had kids there, and you know, been swimming myself. I'm a lap swimmer. How does one? I guess maybe I'm asking for the whole group here too, possibly. How does one get involved in you know, not just giving your sort of random input, but maybe getting a little bit more input into those type of things?
Yeah, Ms. Freed, well, first of all, you're starting now, which is great, right? By providing feedback at this meeting. As we get to the phasing and the specific planning for that location, there will be many opportunities. They'll be posted on the website. There'll be outreach from local commissioners to ensure that anyone and everyone who's interested in some level of participation will be able to do that. So just stay tuned, and you'll be able to lend your non-architectural but extreme hands-on experience to the process.
Okay. Thank you for all your work, everyone.
Appreciate it. Peggy, I said you were going to be next, so go ahead. Oh, no, now you're muted.
I am muted. Can you hear me now? Okay, yes. First of all, yes, I won't repeat all the kudos, but I agree, you know, this hybrid E, I'm really thrilled with what's in there. But I would love to also, I'll be on the lookout for meetings for Conklin Pool, because the person who just spoke, definitely, we raised our kids there, and I'm a big lap swimmer year round, and I love to lap swim at the township pool. So I would like to also hopefully see if there is any planning for the arts, if that building is demolished or moved. So far, I haven't seen really any intensive planning that if that is going to come to pass, how to really plan and invite the input of those of us who use it in multiple ways at the Arts Center. It's not just someone like myself who actually has used probably more of the specialty studios and probably anybody else there. I think I've been working actively. I work actively in 2 studios now. I've been in the ceramic studio. I have had executive directors of other art centers come in, for instance, and they were blown away by, we have triple the space and capacity for the things that we do in the ceramic studio than, for instance, the Yellow Springs studio, which is now fully funded with some of their event space. But anyway, just want to be brief here and want to say thank you again, and thank you for getting the federal funds. But really, I am concerned, as are many people I speak to, about transitioning to studios that have the same specialized capacity that we have in the various studios we have now. Yeah.
Thank you, Peggy, for those comments. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Judith Goldberg is next.
Hey, hi. It's really exciting for all this great work that people put in to really bring the whole township community into the future and really bring a lot of value to being a member of this community. That said, I'm just thinking, and forgive me because I wasn't, through every twist and turn of this process, but I'm thinking of, and I'm not even the biggest sports person, but I know what they mean to the community. I'm thinking of some spaces that weren't thought of or could be. So I just want to know what your how you thought those into everything. So I'm not sure if the township runs the baseball fields over by the Cheltenham train station off Old Soldiers Road. So that was one piece I was thinking of. There's also the tennis courts and the playgrounds over by Tookenny and Central Avenue. And I'm also just thinking of something like what Plymouth Township has done, having like a mega sports complex, right? That's everything to the community, including an indoor pool for year round that they've even monetized out, I think, to Villanova University baseball plays there. So I agree with the petition to have continuity with the arts facilities, but I'm thinking of how the sports facilities are thought of comprehensively beyond, the great soccer field that we have that is being addressed, and the pools, outdoor pools.
Yeah, great questions. I will tell you that as part of this discussion, we didn't really focus on those other properties that are already established, like with Cheltenham Little League and et cetera. But certainly the sports facilities for our youth and adults in the township are important, and your comments are very helpful to keep our focus on those as we go forward. So thank you.
Thank you.
Missy Ryan Montserrat. Missy, if you're speaking, you're on mute at the moment.
Sorry, just took me a minute.
That's okay.
So I am a Glenside resident, and I just want to express, thank you for the obvious thought and effort that has gone into the planning of that, of what you presented tonight. We really, I think I speak for a lot of people. We appreciate the work that's been done. It really looks like a nice, from my standpoint, a nice idea. I really think it's great. And just appreciate everybody's work that has gone into this particular plan. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for those comments. Bill England.
Yes, good evening. Sorry, I was trying to find a toggle.
You're good. Good evening, Bill.
Good evening. I appreciate this plan, this revised vision. It's wonderful to know that the many comments, the emails, etc., were taken into consideration as this vision has evolved. I appreciate the focus on Lamont. I saw that Congresswoman Dean has submitted a request for a grant, and we'll all keep our fingers crossed. One thing that we can always do more of is to really understand and embrace the history of Cheltenham. It's American history, the things that happen here. And by investing in the community of Lamont and the Lamont Community Center, that puts our money where our mouth should be. We should know more about the history and the trails and paths across the township that has been noted. Yes, we need to find ways to do more there. We have Church Road. We need an alternative to Church Road to get people across the township. And I hope in longer range planning, that's something that's being considered. I have a question about, kudos to everybody for getting us to this point tonight.
And Bill, just before you go to your question, just to clarify, the request from Representative Dean for $3.8 million was approved. It's in the budget. So we have been awarded those funds as of, I guess, a couple of days ago. So even more opportunity to put our money where our mouth should be. So thank you. But go ahead with your question.
Don't repeat me. You sound as bad as I do. I don't, you know what I was trying to say. Well, that's even better news. That is truly a gem in this part of the country. And I'm glad to hear that that is going to be renovated and built upon. One thing that's been missing from all this discussion that I'm curious about is the baseball complex. What is there any future plans for that? Will that just continue the way that it is at this point in time? I'm curious, and you may not be able to say tonight, what the thinking is for moving the public works facility from Church Road and 611. I know that the township does own land on Cheltenham Avenue that is difficult to develop for commercial. Maybe that's some of the thinking, but yeah, those were the two things that stood out. But again, I thank you for the work on this, and this feels much more like Cheltenham than the first iteration. So I thank you.
Thank you, Mr. England. Just two quick responses on the Cheltenham baseball facility. As that was not part of the discussion, so there's no plans to change anything in that regard at this point. And with respect to the public works facility, as part of this plan, there would be a divestment of that property and the adjacent Elkins Park Library property. Where the public works would be relocated to is still to be determined. So thank you for that question and those comments. Beth L. is next.
Thank you. Thank you for taking my, whatever this is called. So I actually live in Cheltenham Village, and I will say between the closing of the art, the loss of the library, I feel like everybody's running away from the village. So I know the one person said, well, can't you find a place in Elkins Park to put the art center? But, you know, you need to keep something in the village. I mean, at this point, the nearest library to me is the Ryers Museum, which is where I'm going to have to go because I don't want to have to drive all the way across town. So that's my first comment. But my second, and I do think Wall Park looks much better than the initial designs. Thank you. The second thing is, and I know that funding comes later and all that stuff, but I really, really want, when a budget is put together, a complete budget with maintenance. And I stress this because history should not repeat itself here. We should not be here. No, I'm going to be too old, but nobody should be here decades from now saying all our buildings are crap now. We got to tear them apart and start over. And I know you said that having fewer buildings will make maintenance easier, but it is critical that nothing gets built unless there is a real plan for continuous and a reasonable amount of money for maintenance. And I tell people this when they buy a house: if you can afford a $3,000 mortgage, do not buy a house with a $3,000 mortgage, because when the hot water heater goes, you will have no money to fix it. And it is very important. I cannot stress that enough. Thank you.
Thank you very much for those comments. They are very, very well taken. Maintenance is absolutely a critical component of the success of this process and the longevity of our facilities. So thank you for that. Appreciate it. Joe Gladding.
Hi, thanks for the opportunity to speak, and I'm really glad to see that you're giving the Lamont Community Center the resources and attention that have been long due it. I'm hoping that, and I know you didn't really discuss this, but I'm hoping that, as another speaker said, or another questioner said, that solar and indigenous native plantings and a minimal monocultural grass plantings is part of the plan to create the healthiest spaces possible. I also am concerned that someplace like the Ogons courts are not addressed in this. They are really quite decayed, and you know, if no action's taken, they'll be lost. And then on the final topic, I'm a part of the Cheltenham pickleball group. And I don't know if you know, I hope you do, and I assume you do, that currently when we play outdoors under the permit with the township, that there are 6 pickleball courts. And I'm perplexed why you would go down to, and they're full and they're busy, and it is a thriving, remarkable community of people. And I'm perplexed why you would go from 6 to 4 courts in what is showing no sign of lessening in being the fastest growing sport in the country. So those are my observations, and I really appreciate the opportunity to speak tonight.
Thank you, Ms.
Matt,
Gladding.
Matt,
yes,
Matt, can I jump in on that a little bit?
Of course, go ahead, Eric.
The 2 tennis courts could be lined for 4 pickleball courts with a movable net, so there would be a total of 8. Probably should have mentioned that when I reviewed that, so I apologize for not being clear.
Thanks.
There you go. You just got yourself 2 more. Thank you. Valerie Dupont. Valerie, if you're speaking, you're on mute. We can't hear you. Okay, Valerie, we're going to come back to you. We have another hand, Brad Pransky. Who is this? Man.
Someone I'm not familiar with myself. I have a lot of thoughts about this, but I'm going to hold off on them because we only have, one evening. And I'm sure the board wants to go home at some point. I think that Matt will remember, Mitch. I had a conversation with Congresswoman Dean at a fundraising event over a year ago, and mentioned about the community center, or Lamont Community Center, which he was not terribly familiar with at the time. And then brought that back to Mitch, and we set up a meeting down at the community center. And I know Dan was also there at the time, and she was very, very impressed and said she would try to work with us. And then Mitch picked up the ball and ran with it, which it resulted in this grant. Mad was texting me during the meeting, and I told her that we were having a meeting about this and how the board had received it. And she said, I'm just going to read this. I'm so thrilled. Please tell the team I'm in DC, will not be able to be there. But she wanted to let everybody know that she was happy, that we were happy, and is looking forward to working with the township. That's all. I'll keep everything else to myself.
Thank you, Commissioner Pransky. Much appreciated, and thank you for passing that along. Valerie, are you able to unmute yourself? I see in the chat you were having trouble. Just know anyone who, for either for technical reasons or for time reasons or for any other reason, is not able to speak tonight, there are plenty of opportunities to do that. I think the email address was posted in the chat. It was in the presentation, and will be available on our website. So if you don't get a chance to talk tonight, you will certainly have that opportunity through other means. Oh, I think that you did it.
It finally happened.
You just needed a little lead time. That's all. Go ahead.
I guess finally my phone listened to me with my thumb hitting that button. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, I'm out in the public place, but I got to a quieter place. Thank you so much, everyone, for all that you've done. This sounds really promising. The idea of having this mostly funded by grants with no repercussions for taxpayers makes me very happy. And I'm sure you have been working very hard on that. And I appreciate everything you've done to that point and everything you will be doing. I just wanted to ask a few questions if I could. First, there's some discussion in the Zoom comments that they'll be discontinued. And my question is, will the comments in the Zoom in this recording, will they be available when the recording is posted online? And I can go through my other questions too, or if you want to answer them one by one, we can do it that way.
So I don't know that the comments are ever recorded. To be honest with you, that is something that perhaps Allison Elliott can maybe lend some clarity to.
You're correct. We don't post meeting chat minutes, chats in the meeting minutes. Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, do you take what is said in the comments to in consideration looking back at the meeting?
Typically, the chat is not completely monitored, but we see many of the comments and may raise them in separate comments. But I mean, raise it during the meeting if something pops out at one of us. But no, it is not an official public comment. It's not recorded. Anyone who wants to present something can do so. Verbally. Although, like I said, while it's not monitored, we do see it. So it does.
Okay.
Permeates in one way or
Thank
the other.
you. Yeah. Thanks for that clarity. So the federal grant, which is very exciting for Lamont, for the community center, is that reflected, that savings, is that reflected in that number, that overall number that was given, or the line item number? Okay.
No, it hasn't been incorporated yet.
Financials. Okay. Okay, great. One thought is about, this brought up, which is a very good point about the history of Cheltenham. Look, I think we could be leveraging really so much. And, I thought, we have such an opportunity to have a museum and make it a draw, like a tourist draw and stuff like that, that I'm wondering if there's room without incurring any additional cost in one of the community centers, such as Lamont, that there could be a museum type of space that could showcase, Cheltenham's very rich history with the Underground Railroad, Lucretia Mott, which Lamont is named after, Camp William Penn, and also the Gilded Age, buildings that we have in the township.
Yeah, thank you for that question. The answer is we are certainly open to the idea. There's been some talk at the state level of perhaps leveraging some sort of historical component in Cheltenham, and we have been discussing it in terms of our potential programming there. So it's certainly something that we're open to. So thank you for that comment.
Great.
Mr. President?
And
yeah.
I have one more question, but go ahead.
Well, in answer to, I just wanted to jump in on a comment you made regarding whether the grant that we received is factored into the number. So it's important to understand we're not going to get into right now how that money is to be raised, but it's important to understand that not only is not this grant factored into it, but our desire or attempts to get future grants are not factored into it, and other opportunities to either have partnerships or fundraising, or also the divestiture, the sale specifically of the Elkins Park property along with the public works is also not factored in. So there are many moving pieces there. That's all I want to say.
Thank you. That's good points there. So my final question for tonight is, with the understanding that yes, more funding could be procured, but in the event that we don't get the funding, a significant amount of funding to cover like the rehabbing of the two pools, is it possible that we could at least have in our back pockets an alternate plan that would involve finding private buyers for the pools, so they could be still serving the community but not at a burden to the taxpayers?
So public and private partnerships are certainly creative ways to finance facilities and supplement grants, and certainly we plan to explore all possible options. I'm not saying that that's a good option or a bad option, but it's certainly one worth exploring.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Dan George.
Again, I'll echo everybody else's thanks to all the people that got us to this point, both those that were involved in the grants acquisition and probably future ones, hopefully coming down the line. I'm just going to comment on the things that were open questions for me with the presentation that was given. I think on the whole, I'll echo what Mr. England said, which is that this feels more like Cheltenham, and it seems to address a lot of the concerns and expectations that were raised by people earlier on in a number of the presentations that happened before this, and probably in subsequent feedback that you probably received. But the three areas that I have questions about, you may have a way of addressing them, I'm not sure. So I'd like to get some kind of idea on where we're headed on those. One is the township is woefully lacking compared to its surrounding communities in indoor recreation. And you can characterize that or detail that in any way you want to frame it. But the fact of the matter is, such resources which provide all-weather condition access to recreational activities basically don't exist in Cheltenham. So if there's anybody who comes in with children or expectations of pursuing recreational programming or taking advantage of them, that would be a disincentive to look here. Second question, so I'm wondering what, if any, thought is being given to that in the overall vision for the number of components or pieces that are moving here. Second, which is somewhat related, but not necessarily, is what synergies we're looking at with the school district to try to get some coordination on the use of facilities, all of which are paid for out of the same set of pockets and need to be managed in a way that effectively preserves and enhances living here in Cheltenham. Finally, there was a visual on the Wall Park diagram that had a future bridge showing there, and I'm wondering to what. That must have been put there for a reason. I'm kind of curious what the thinking was behind that. I have some ideas of my own, but I'm not going to express them here right now.
Left.
I'm also curious about how the Cheltenham is watching what's going on in Jenkintown with their police department as the tip of an iceberg, where municipalities are finding that they can't fund all the things that are what used to be called necessities within their borders because it just costs too much. Has there been any thought about, as part of vision, what things can be done jointly
3 minutes
with other townships, and what things might need to stay within the sovereignty boundaries of the Home Rule Charter of Cheltenham?
Thank you, Mr. George. Certainly, the coordination of essential services with other municipalities is not part of was not part of this discussion on facilities, but it may be part of other discussions in the future. I'm sort of going in reverse order. With respect to the school district, this vision does create opportunities for collaboration and partnership, not only as Ms. DuPont was talking about, public-private partnerships, but partnerships between public entities. And those discussions, you know, have had some preliminary engagement, and we anticipate that there will be additional engagement on those topics to make sure that we can, if possible, maximize that partnership. And then in terms of indoor recreation, the programming part of the process will come, and whether that includes indoor recreation, outdoor recreation. If you looked on the Wall Park proposal, there are sort of opportunities for indoor recreation. My guess is that will have a financial impact, and that will have to be addressed when we determine what the financial what our financial feasibility would be for things like that. But thank you for those questions. Appreciate it. It looks like Dan Schultz is next.
Hey, Commissioner, can I jump in? Commissioner Brockington, can I jump in?
Commissioner Brockington, please.
Mr. George, I just wanted to let you know too that right now our school district has been working very closely with the Cheltenham sports program, and the gyms are being used just about every weekend. I was in a game last night with my grandson. So the school district is working with our youth sports program, allowing the gyms to be used. And that's during the week and on the weekends. So I just wanted to just let you know that, and everyone know that. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Commissioner Brockington. Appreciate that insight. Dan Schultz.
Thank you. And full disclaimer, I'm on the school board, and I was just in the school board meeting before joining, so I didn't get to see the whole presentation, but I did skim the transcript and wanted to thank the township for proposing this investment in the future of what libraries can and I think should be in the community. I was part of the library board when they were working on their strategic plan, so I know all the thought and care and community input that went into that. So I'm really thankful that that work is reflected in this revised proposal. So I wanted to put that on the record. Apologies for my voice. I'm living down a cold. Just because I am on the school board, I am just one more member of the board, but I wanted to plus one what President Armand just said about how there are conversations happening to explore what may or may not make sense. The school district is also doing a feasibility study. It's focused on the Elkins Park building and the high school and some athletics facilities. And I would encourage folks to check those presentations out because we are in the sort of research phase that the township was in several months ago. So please look at those presentations if you get a minute. And thank you, Board of Commissioners and planners, for all of your work.
Thank you, Mr. Schultz. I think Teresa Camarota may be our last hand, but we'll see. We'll see if someone
hi there.
Trigger someone to raise another question. So go ahead, Ms. Camarota.
I just want to thank everyone, Mitch and Mr. Lewis and Ann and all the commissioners who have contributed to getting the grant money forward for Lamont. Sorry, my camera's not working either. I've been on the phone and text with Rebecca Schultz from the Art Center, and they're sorry that they were unable to attend the meeting. I just want to just reflect some of their thoughts about having this decision still continue, that the Art Center will be divested. And I can't really represent them properly, but I just want to say that they have an up and coming spring program for all the neighborhoods that is really phenomenal, that's going to pull together a lot of artistic efforts for students and seniors. And they came and did a presentation at Lamont about 2 weeks ago, and it was just phenomenal. And as Margaret explained the programs and what they're doing, we really came to realize how important their work is and how important the Art Center is. And it's a bit concerning that it's not going to be there. So however that is going to work out in the future, we just want to let you know that it's really a community builder, and it's been here quite long and has serviced many generations. So we do want to see it continue in some fashion. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Camerota. Edie Serby.
I tried to stay quiet, but I couldn't do it.
Well within your right. Go ahead.
Okay. I want to echo what's been said earlier, that this new plan feels a lot more like Cheltenham. And I'm glad to see that the comments of the residents were heeded very carefully. My only disappointment in this is that the Glenside Hall is still scheduled to be torn down. It's on the National Historic Register. It's dedicated to veterans, and I wish that there would be some way to save it. And I also would hope that if you are going to divest yourselves of the Heller School, which is where the Art Center is, and the Shovel Shop, that you think very carefully about how it's divested and that its historical significance is saved.
Much appreciated. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. I am not seeing any additional hands, but Allison, if I'm missing somebody, please let me know.
No, I think you're good.
Okay. Well, but before we close, I just want to, well, actually, let me open it up to anyone on the board who may want to make a comment, but certainly, like I said, we're not voting tonight. So if you're going to make comment, please make it brief. So let me, before we sort of close, and we're also 9 minutes to 9 o'clock. So anyone who wants to sort of weigh in or mention a comment, please feel free to do so. Commissioner Norris's hand is up.
Thank you, Mr. President. Really brief, just really good input tonight from the residents, and it continues our commitment that we've been hearing and listening and reading the comments and questions that have been coming in over the past, I'll say, many months. So this is an ongoing process. We're continuing to work on it, but thanks everybody for their input.
Okay, and anyone else from the board? Okay, then I would like to thank everyone for their participation tonight. As Commissioner Norris just said, your feedback is and continues to be invaluable. And in that vein, please continue to provide your feedback by visiting the website and emailing us at the address. And perhaps, Allison, you can put it in the chat again so it's down here so everyone can see it. But if you can't find it, it's right on the main page of our website. In terms of next steps, I ask that you continue to stay tuned, because it is expected that this concept or some form thereof will be presented, debated, and possibly voted upon at next month's Legislative Board of Commissioners meeting. That's April 17th. So stay tuned. It's possible that could change, but I think the board is at a point where we think it's important to move the process forward. And so I would anticipate that would be part of the agenda for April 17th. So stay tuned for that. And with that, again, I want to thank everybody. I want to thank my colleagues on the board. I want to thank staff. And in particular, I want to thank our team of architects, Drew, Eric, and Rick, for your very, very diligent hard work and for helping set us on the right course for the future. So thank you very much, everybody. Have a good evening. And Commissioner Lewis, we are 7 minutes early in closing. So thank you.